Before the muscle car wars, before the super sports and big blocks became household names, there was this, a one-year-only Chevrolet that broke rules, defied design traditions, and left GM's own executives scratching their heads. The 1958 Chevrolet Impala, a car born in transition, shaped by two design titans at war with each other, loaded with bold ideas, risky engineering, and mistakes they hoped you'd forget. What really happened behind the scenes? Why did Chevrolet gamble so hard on this car, only to erase it from production after just 12 months? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on one of the most misunderstood, short-lived, and secretly revolutionary cars of the 1950s. This is the full, unfiltered story of the 1958 Chevrolet Impala. Number 10. A new dawn in American car culture. The year was 1958. Across America, a powerful wave of change was sweeping through driveways, dealerships, and design studios. Post-war optimism was now fully embedded into every layer of American life, and nowhere was that spirit more alive than in the auto industry. Suburban streets buzzed with chrome-clad cruisers, two-tone paint jobs, and white-wall tires. Motown was awakening with horsepower. Detroit was a factory of dreams. Each car rolling off the assembly line wasn't just a mode of transportation, it was a rolling sculpture, a loud and proud extension of its owner's personality. And right at the epicenter of this transformation stood Chevrolet, General Motors' blue-collar hero turned middle-class style icon. But 1958 would be different. This wasn't just another model year refresh. This was the moment Chevrolet would unveil something completely new, something bold, beautiful, and undeniably risky. The 1958 Chevrolet Impala, a car that was neither fully of the past nor fully of the future. A machine caught between two design philosophies, between the rounded, aircraft-inspired styling of Harley Earl and the sharper, more performance-driven aesthetic soon to be championed by Bill Mitchell. The 58 Impala wasn't just a car, it was the final exclamation mark on one era, and the first hesitant step into the next. But here's the strange truth that most people, even seasoned car fans, don't realize. The very first Impala existed for 1 year only, not a generation, not a multi-year platform, just one brief, shining, and deeply flawed season in American automotive history. Its chassis? One of a kind. Its body? Unique to 90. Its features? Loaded with quirky, ambitious engineering, much of it forgotten today. So why did Chevrolet build this bold, beautiful beast for just a single year? And why does it still hold such a magnetic pull on collectors, historians, and classic car lovers more than 6 decades later? Let's take a ride back to 1958 and uncover the full, untold story of the Chevrolet Impala's one-year-only debut. Number 9. The men behind the metal. To understand how the 1958 Impala came to life, you have to step inside the executive offices and design studios at General Motors. On one side of the building sat Harley Earl, GM's larger-than-life vice president of design. For decades, Earl had set the gold standard for American automotive style. Under his leadership, GM styling was flamboyant, flowing, and full of jet-age optimism. Sweeping chrome curves, panoramic windshields, towering tail fins, it was all part of Earl's signature playbook. But by the late 1950s, Earl's era was nearing its curtain call. Retirement loomed, and waiting in the wings was his hand-picked successor, Bill Mitchell. Where Earl loved curves and drama, Mitchell preferred crisp lines and aggressive stances. His vision for GM's future was leaner, sharper, and undeniably faster-looking, even at a standstill. Caught between these two design giants stood Claire McKitchen, Chevrolet's head of styling since 1953. McKitchen was no stranger to shaping icons. He had already overseen the legendary Tri-5 Chevrolets, those beloved 1955, 56, and 57 models that are still collector favorites today. Now it was his job to blend Earl's past with Mitchell's future, while satisfying marketing demands, engineering constraints, and the growing appetite of American car buyers who wanted more luxury, more performance, and more presence on the road. Number 8. Birth of a one-year wonder. The result of all that creative tension? The 1958 Chevrolet Impala. Unlike any Chevrolet before it, and unlike any that would come after, this wasn't just a facelift. This was a complete mechanical and stylistic departure. Gone was the traditional perimeter frame used in the 1957 models. In its place, a brand new X-frame chassis, known internally as the XF platform. It offered better structural rigidity and allowed engineers to drop the car's overall height while stretching its length and width. The goal was clear: longer, lower, wider, and unmistakably more upscale. In fact, for 1958, the Impala wasn't even a full Chevrolet lineup. It was introduced as a premium trim package, sitting proudly atop the Bel Air range, offering an exclusive high-style alternative for buyers craving something special. And here's another fascinating twist. In its debut year, the Impala came in only two body styles: a sleek two-door hardtop coupe and a convertible. No four-door sedans, no wagons, just two distinct, sporty shapes designed to make a statement. Chevrolet wasn't trying to play it safe. They were aiming for something memorable. Number 7. The name they almost laughed out of the room. But before this car could ever hit the streets, it needed a name. And that's where the story takes a funny, almost unbelievable turn. When the name Impala was first suggested, it was met with snickers and eye rolls inside GM headquarters. Legend has it that one senior executive scoffed. "Why would we name a car after some damn goat?" Clearly, someone in the room needed a lesson in African wildlife, because an Impala isn't a goat at all. It's a sleek, fast and graceful African antelope, known for its speed, agility and elegance in motion, and for the design team, it was perfect symbolism. The name stuck, and good thing it did, because in the decades that followed, Impala would become one of the most recognized and enduring badges in Chevrolet history, surviving well into the 21st century. A name once ridiculed would go on to represent millions of vehicles and countless memories on American roads. Number 6. A signature seen from behind, the triple taillight revelation. Slide behind one of these 1958 Impalas, and the first thing that commands your attention isn't the exhaust note, the rumble of the V8, or even the sweeping rear fenders. It's the taillights. 3 round lenses per side. A small design choice? Maybe at first glance. But for Chevrolet, and for the Impala, this was a watershed moment in styling language. Before 1958, Chevrolet's rear designs had been relatively conservative, 2 tail lamps per side, often shared across multiple trim levels. But with the Impala, GM's design team wanted to make a bold, unmistakable statement to anyone following behind. Those triple tail lamps weren't just about illumination, they were about identity. A visual shorthand saying, "This isn't a Biscayne, this isn't a Bel Air, this is something better." That simple, brilliant design feature would go on to become a defining hallmark of the Impala nameplate, echoed and reinterpreted throughout the 1960s into the muscle car era of the early 1970s, and even revived again in the Caprice and later Lumina models of the 1990s. What began as a creative flourish in 1958 turned into one of the longest-running visual traditions in Chevrolet history. Number 5. The infamous fake roof vent, beauty over function. But not every design feature on the 58 Impala was as timeless or as successful. Cast your eyes upward, and you'll notice a curious detail, a V-shaped air vent mounted high on the rear roof panel. To the untrained eye, it looks like something straight out of a wind tunnel, a clever aerodynamic feature to channel air through the cabin and out the rear. That was the plan. The design team had intended this to be a functional air extractor, pulling stale hot air from inside the car and whisking it away at highway speeds. But reality had other ideas. In wind tunnel testing, engineers discovered that the vent sat right in a low-pressure zone, meaning that instead of extracting air, it actually sucked air back into the cabin. The exact opposite of its intended purpose. So what did GM do? Did they redesign the roof, scrap the feature entirely? Not quite. Instead, they simply sealed it shut, turning it into a purely decorative element. A case study in fake but fabulous automotive styling, perfectly in tune with the chrome-heavy, ornament-loving late 50s aesthetic. And it didn't stop there. GM would go on to use similar non-functional air extractors on later models like the 1963-1965 Buick Riviera and even the legendary 1963 Corvette split-window coupe. What started as a failed engineering experiment quietly became a styling trend across multiple GM divisions. Number 4. Inside the cockpit. Racing cues and Swiss cheese. Step inside a 1958 Impala, and you're greeted by a cabin dripping with late 50s flair. Metallic accents, two-tone door panels, bench seats that could swallow you whole. But look closer at the steering wheel. That's where one of the most unusual and unexpectedly performance-inspired details reveals itself. The 2-spoke steering wheel, complete with large circular holes drilled right through the spokes, giving it the unmistakable appearance of, well, a slice of Swiss cheese. This wasn't a gimmick. The design was a deliberate nod to racing heritage. In motorsports of the day, racers often drilled holes in their steering wheels to reduce weight and improve steering response. The Impala wasn't a track car, of course. But Chevrolet's designers wanted to inject a little performance spirit into their most upscale coupe, even if it was more about style than function. The perforated wheel added a dash of sporty personality, a reminder that the Impala wasn't just for Sunday cruises down Main Street. Number 3. Muscle under the hood, the powertrain story. Now let's get to what many muscle car fans care about most, the engines. In 1958, Chevrolet didn't just rest on style, they packed the Impala with a variety of powerful engine options that gave it real street credibility. At the top of the heap sat the mighty 348 cubic inch V8, Chevrolet's first big block, available in multiple configurations. The most potent was the Super Turbo Thrust Tri-Power setup, sporting 3 two-barrel carburetors and churning out a stout 280 horsepower. For those not ready to wrangle with multiple carbs, there was the single 4-barrel turbo thrust version, making around 250 horses, still impressive for the era. But wait, there was more. For the tech-savvy buyer chasing cutting-edge innovation, Chevrolet offered the 283 cubic inch V8 with ramjet fuel injection, a genuine rarity in 1958. Output? A respectable 250 horsepower, delivered with precision fuel control that few cars of the era could match. And for the more budget-conscious, buyers could opt for smaller V8s or even the reliable 235 cubic inch Blue Flame inline-six, a tried-and-true engine that balanced efficiency with Chevrolet's hallmark dependability. Whether you were after boulevard cruising or stoplight sprints, the 1958 Impala had a powertrain to suit your mood. Number 2. Air ride ambitions, when innovation backfired. But perhaps the most ambitious, some might say overly ambitious, mechanical feature on the 1958 Impala was its air ride suspension system. Long before Cadillac popularized air suspension in luxury cars of the 80s and 90s, Chevrolet was already experimenting with the concept back in 1958. Instead of traditional steel coil springs, the system used rubber air bladders pressurized by an engine-driven compressor. The idea? Provide a cloud-like ride and an automatic leveling system that adjusted ride height based on passenger load and cargo weight. On paper, it sounded revolutionary. In reality, it was a maintenance nightmare. Owners complained of leaking airbags, unreliable valves, and compressors that drained engine power. Within months, GM dealers were swamped with customer complaints about sagging suspensions and uneven ride heights. Ultimately, GM was forced to recall the system, swapping the air ride setups back to conventional steel springs and issuing refunds to disappointed buyers. Today, if you find a surviving Chevrolet 8 Impala with its original functioning air ride system, you've found something exceedingly rare and probably worth bragging about at any car show. Number 1. 1958 versus 1959, 2 cars, 2 eras. Some casual observers assume the 58 and 59 Impalas were minor variations on the same theme. Not true. In fact, these cars were so different that they're best understood as entirely separate generations. While both used the XF frame, the 1959 Impala underwent dramatic changes. The wheelbase stretched, the roofline lowered even further, the body widened noticeably. Inside, the seating position changed dramatically. Drivers now sat much lower, almost at floor level, resulting in a stretched-out, legs-forward driving posture unfamiliar to most 1958 owners. Visually, the transformation was even more radical, where the 58 wore its curves proudly. With rounded fenders and soft tail shapes, the 1959 model went full-on space-age futurism, complete with wing-shaped tail fins and a broad horizontal rear end that looked like it could double as a launch pad for a rocket. The transition from 58 to 59 perfectly captured GM's changing design philosophy, from Harley Earl's jet-age romanticism to Bill Mitchell's streamlined, sharp-edged modernism. One car was the last chapter of a nostalgic era, the other, a bold preview of the 1960s. So now that you know the real story, what do you think? Was the 1958 Impala a brilliant risk or an overstyled misstep? Have you ever seen one up close, maybe at a car show, in a barn find, or even in your own family history? Drop your thoughts and memories down in the comments. We love hearing your stories about cars like this. And hey, if this deep dive taught you something new, made you smile, or helped you appreciate a forgotten chapter of American car history, do us a favor, hit that like button, share this with your fellow car lovers, and if you haven't yet, subscribe to Regal Rides for more forgotten legends and hidden automotive history. Because here, we don't just talk about cars, we tell the stories that chrome, steel, and horsepower left behind. Until next time, keep the tires turning and the memories alive.